All right. I hope you guys are doing well today. So I'd like to welcome you to Decibel Peak's live mixing and mastering workshop. This is the first installment of this series that I'm going to be doing it from now on. So it's actually also the first video I've posted in a couple of months. So I've been really busy with other projects on the side. There's definitely going to be more videos coming in the next couple of months, even next couple of weeks. So I hope that you're looking forward to that. Make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with everything that we're going to be posting. And I don't want to waste too much time with the promotional stuff because I want to get right into this project that we've got loaded up. So basically, this is not one of my tracks. This is actually the track of one of my best students, Jean-François Lamontagne. And so huge shout out to Jean-François Lamontagne. He's also an upcoming artist in the Montreal, Québec area. Donc, ça se peut qu'on parle aussi en français une fois de temps en temps. Donc, on va switcher de langue une fois de temps en temps, juste pour que tout le monde à Montréal puisse apprécier ce live stream. So yes, we speak French and English in Montreal, and so we're gonna try to make that happen in future videos as well. So let me know if you guys are interested in more French videos. I might actually make some just in French. So just leave me some comments, give me some feedback, let me know what you guys are looking for. But for now, so like I said, Jean-François is also one of my students. So we've been working together for almost a year now, if not more, on basically this album. So this is going to also be part promotion for this project that he's working on and that we're working on together. And we're going to be basically like showing you guys behind the scenes, so what the production looks like. I'm basically responsible for the most part for the mixing and mastering. I've helped him produce a little bit of the stuff as well, but he's basically, he embodies the philosophy that Decibel Peak stands for, which is independent artists learning how to produce, mix, and master their own music. And of course, we're leading up to the release of an album. So I'm also going to be making some videos and potentially a live stream on how to actually go about doing that. So from start to finish, how we're going to get this thing distributed on streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, and all of that good stuff. So definitely make sure to subscribe to stay up to date with that. If I haven't already said it 1,000 times before. So basically, I'm gonna give you a little rundown of what you're looking at right now. So this is a slightly cleaned up version of what, we're gonna refer to him as the client because this is what we're simulating. So this is like basically what it would look like if one of you guys, as the mixing and mastering engineers, were to receive a project from one of your hopefully artist clients, that kind of understands more or less how to work, with the software and who's done maybe a lot of the work already, and you're just there to polish everything up, finish it up, bring it to the level it needs to be released on the streaming platforms. And luckily in this case, we both use the same DAW, which is Logic Pro. So I actually have the session. He sent me the session. So from the most part, you're going to be receiving stems, stem mixes, which are like the individual WAV files. But in this case, we actually have the entire project, with still automations and, so this is basically his mix. I've done already, like I said, some cleaning up. I've organized, I've created some sub mixes and stuff where we're going to need to do more. This is just like, because I just looked at it quickly and stuff, just to make sure that, for example, like the drums, we weren't using the same drum sample library. And so I'm using Steven Slade drum. So I already swapped that for that because it's going to be an upgrade. And we're going to maybe look at upgrading some of the sounds that are already there now. For example, these violins, which are using the stock Logic Pro X strings, which are all right. but we're gonna replace it with East West's Composer Cloud. So the string library from that. So that's gonna be like a lot more increase the production value of this track. So that's basically like the gist of what we're going to be doing, because as mixing and mastering engineers, we're also kind of responsible for potentially replacing certain sounds. And I mean, the job also involves like tuning vocals. So I'm pretty sure he's already applied some auto-tune, which is not like the hip hop, like rap auto-tune. Like it's going to be like, we're going to use it as a mixing tool. Like it's going to be very subtle and you're barely even going to notice it. So that's one of the things I definitely want to focus on today, because I haven't done much stuff with vocals. I haven't released much videos that involve working with vocals. So we're going to focus a lot on the actual vocals. And yeah, so it already seems like Logic is kind of bugging a little bit. So that tends to happen from time to time, but we're gonna correct that in just a few moments. And that's it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna listen to this track, okay? And just warning you guys now, this live stream is gonna be back up for a replay at some point. And by at some point, I mean once we actually release this single, because this is gonna be one of the first singles we release on this album. But otherwise, it's going to be unlisted for a certain amount of time. So if you're not watching right now, you might not get the chance for a while. And if you are watching, make sure to take notes. And yeah, it'll be back up for sure in a couple of weeks. But this is just kind of like an exclusive thing. So this is the kind of stuff that we're going to be doing from now on. And so yeah, so let's just listen to what it sounds like. This is basically 99% Jean-François. So this is like, he's done a really good job actually. This track is almost done. We're gonna strip it down, and do it from scratch, because that's what we're here to do, to learn. But as a student, he's come a really long way, and honestly, I'm so proud of him. Like this stuff, like this track is amazing. I love it. And also the mixing and mastering he's already done is like, it's very close to what we're aiming at. So anyways, you guys listen to it, and let me know in the comments or in the live chat if you hear anything, like what you guys are thinking, your thoughts. I'm going to try to do the same thing with, while I'm working, just speak whatever it is that I'm, thinking and doing, to make it as as easy for you guys to understand as possible. So let's just go ahead and play this track.
I'd be dead by now. I'd be dead by now. Somehow I managed to stay in line. Sidetrack trips upon the time. Some of my folks who leave their eyes. I was dancing off beat. Somehow I managed to stay in line. Silent trips showed back tears. Some of my thoughts were way out of line. I was dancing off beat, and I can't see, and I can't sleep, and I can't run from anyone, and I can't sleep, and I can't sleep, and I can't run from anyone. I'd be dead by now.
So yeah, if I haven't said it already, I freaking love this track. Like for me, like this is like excellent work in regards to, composition. Believe it or not, he recorded this in his apartment. Okay, so if you guys are looking for excuses that you need this big, extravagant recording studio to get things like this done, you're absolutely wrong. So this was 100% recorded in an apartment building, and including the vocals. And it might not be Hollywood level stuff, but we can definitely get it to that point, with enough work. And of course, there are plenty of things you can do with what you've already got, to make it get to that level. So um some notes, so it's already, like I said, it's pretty close. And if you guys agree, don't disagree, let us know. Okay, so like let's start a conversation in the live chat or in the comments. Let's just um start brainstorming ideas here. So one thing that I noticed right away at the end is the fade out. I don't like the fade out. I think it's too soon. I think I'm gonna like make it a little bit longer. So that's with automation, of course. Generally speaking, the guitars, they sound a little like boxy, a little fake-ish, which is an interesting sound, but I'm not entirely sure that that's what he's going for. So I'm gonna try to make them sound a little bit more um, realistic, okay? And I'm not entirely sure why that is, because his guitar tracks usually sound like really like, even using the Logic amps, they sound like really natural and stuff. But now there's just something. Maybe it's just a couple of the tracks. We're gonna look at that later. We're actually gonna work section by section, and that's why one of the first things we're gonna do is create sub mixes for each category of instruments. Like I already started doing. We're gonna finish that up first. Another thing is at the end, the vocals kind of get like lost in the mix. So obviously a lot of like levels, setting, and also automation, and just making sure everything's spick and span, a lot of cleaning up. So a lot of this stuff might actually be boring or like not interesting. That's why the live chat is there. So, during those times you can ask me questions. But just generally, this is for you guys to see what it's actually like, unedited, what the workflow actually looks like, at least from my end. And yeah, so the techniques he's using, like this track is basically using everything that I've taught him. So this is I guess you could call it the decibel peak method. So this is what you're getting, okay? And I'm going to just reinforce that even more from my end. But there are obviously other things like the drums. I really like the effect, the overcompressed sound. Like he's actually told me that that was not intentional, but I told him like this sounds like freaking amazing. But the thing is, like now it's like just one drum track. What we're gonna do, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of parallel compression. So this is basically kind of what it is, but we're gonna actually create a send that's gonna send the signal from the drums that are already there to another bus. So they're gonna be in parallel. That's why it's called parallel compression. One of them is gonna be overly compressed, like it's gonna sound like this, and the other one is gonna be just a natural drum sound that we're gonna mix both of them together so we can kind of like dial it in, because now it's just there's no clean drums, I guess you can say. It's just 100% like distorted, overcompressed goodness. But we can get a little bit more detail if we work this way. And the bass guitar, as you can see, is one track. It's been recorded DI. That's what it looks like anyway, because he's using an amp, so a Logic amp model, that comes stock with Logic. So a lot of this stuff is like stock plugins. There are a few plugins that are not stock, and I'll talk about those when we get there. But I'm going to duplicate this track. And this is usually how I work. I'll have a DI bass track, and I'll have another, I call it the amp slash amp sim track, depending on whether you actually use a real amp or an amp model. And we're going to mix those two together. So I'm going to show you guys what that's all about. And we're going to get into like, the plugins that we're going to use specifically for drums, for bass, guitar. There's a section of electric guitar, so that's going to be a little bit more work. There's also lead guitars. Piano, I've already done the replacement, so I'm using Piano V2 from Arturia. Okay, the Arteria V collection, which I highly recommend. It's just like, I'm not even going to talk about it right now. Because another thing I haven't told you guys is we're going to try to get this done in 2 hours. I'm not saying it's going to be 100% because obviously I still got to have a couple of back and forths with Jean-François, but it's going to be like 90% of the way there. We're going to aim for that at the end of 2 hours. So you guys can see that it actually is not that difficult to mix and master once you know what you're doing, and it doesn't have to take that long. So as a independent artist, you know, who's got deadlines and wants to just focus on making music, for example, like it's not that big of a deal, you know, to do it yourself. So that's, you know, one of the things in this series that we're going to keep I'm going to keep pushing, you know, is the fact that it's actually like not that difficult, as long as, you know, you listen to what I tell you. So that's basically the piano section, and then we got, which is actually just one instrument, and the vocals, like the glitch, I don't know what's going on. I gotta unhide these tracks, but and it's still kind of bugging. So I might actually restart Logic at some point. That's not an issue right now because we're not gonna look at them for the time being. But yeah, if this stuff ever happens to you guys, just quit Logic and start it up again. The first thing we're going to do, like I said, is just submixes. So, or we could even work from here. I think if I expand the vocals from here, it should work. There you go. So that's a workaround. So, like I said, these already bounced the tracks for the vocals, like already like processed. So I'm going to just use the tracks that are hidden. I'm going to end up erasing these at some point, and we're going to just do it from scratch just to show you exactly what we're doing. But for now, like I said, let's get these, we're going to strip it down. Okay, that's one of the things. Like you see all these, like, this is like presets, because des fois, Jean-François, c'est correct d'utiliser les presets, mais on en a déjà parlé, mais c'est ça, comme dorénavant, comme les choses comme ça, comme ici, que Logic crée tout seul avec des presets, il va falloir les enlever parce que on va, and we're probably going to use sends like these, like, because now it's sending from each channel, and we're going to send like to an actual bus, like especially for vocals, instead of like doing the same thing on each individual vocal track. It's better to, like, you know, you're going to save the CPU resources, and you're also going to make it easier for you if you just send it to either a send, or we're going to send it to a bus. So it depends. Okay, so but for the time being, we're going to erase these, and I'll show you guys another thing. So delete, yeah, delete anyway. And you know, like if ever you're worried, you're working with a client's thing and you don't want to like undo their, you know, you're afraid that you can't go back, you just create a project alternative. So I have my version here. This is the original. So worst comes to worst, we always have that as a reference. But yeah, that's it. So that's it. So now we've got basically the buses that we create, which we're going to call drum mix. So our guitar mix, so that's rhythm guitar, and we're gonna make ones for the leads. You could combine them, it's up to you, really. It depends on what, you know, the level of detail that you want to get to, but we're gonna split it up as rhythm and lead guitar for this. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. So perfect. So we got the lead guitars here. So I'll show you guys first of all how we're gonna create these buses. And these, I'm going to remove them. So these were the sends, which are not even there anymore. So we're going to remove them. If we need sends later, we'll add them, you know, ourselves. And, you know, like, for example, like I might leave some things. Like already he's got, like, you know, like the amps. Obviously, I'm going to leave all of that. I'm not going to completely strip it down. But you see, in regards to EQ, we might have to look into that. And like I said, just do some cleaning up. But for now, we select all of these tracks. Okay, this is the lead guitar mix or folder. And we're going to send it to, doesn't really matter which bus. I tend to be kind of OCD sometimes about this stuff, but I'm learning to just not be. So there we go. We're making a little improvements. So that's L guitar mix. Vocals. we're gonna make, okay, so this is a thing for vocals. Like you're usually gonna have backup vocals and lead vocals. We're gonna do the same thing as for the guitar. So we're gonna have, and I have to figure out because they're all in the same folder right now. So we're gonna have to, like I said, do some organizing. Because that's my thing, okay? Jean-François, il aime travailler avec moi parce que j'organise son désordre. Donc lui, il fait juste créer, il met toute son énergie sur la page. Et moi, ma job, c'est de vraiment comme tout organiser pour lui. Donc, so that's one of my it's one of my things, you know. OCD has its benefits, you know, in mixing and mastering. So if you guys have OCD, it's like it's really good. Especially like that's it, because you're working with artists, they just want to create, you know, they don't want to worry about organizing this stuff. So it's perfect, you know, like you save their day. Okay, so let's look into the vocals just for a moment. See if he's labeled them. For now, like I said, they're all being routed to like that bus. We're gonna have to but already I can start removing the sends. All right, so no send. And yeah, I'm definitely a bit rusty, guys. Like I haven't made a video in forever, so yeah, gonna definitely keep working on on my communication skills. That's very important too. As a creative, you gotta have great communication skills. And doing live streams, like, you know, I encourage you guys to do it. If you're budding mixing and mastering engineers or anything, just make live streams, make mistakes, and it's really good. It's really good for you know, those improvisational, you know, public speaking skills. Okay, since we're here, we're gonna create a piano. And already you see here, I have like 3 instances of Piano V that's taking up a lot of resources, and I'm wondering if I can just combine everything into one track, which it seems like I could. So you create, you get your glue tool. And obviously if we were working with audio, like it's different because now we actually have the MIDI. So that's cool because we can actually go in and mix, you know, with velocities and stuff. So if, you know, you have the option, you know, to coach your client / artist to kind of do this for you or yourself, you know, because you're gonna have your obviously access to your own MIDI. It's really good. Like preserve it. You know, you can bounce in place sometimes, you know, if it's required or if it really is essential, but try to preserve, at least you keep the MIDI track and you mute it, okay? Like, but you keep it there. You could even get the H in there and you hide it, you know, so it's not visible if it's really bothering you, but preserve the MIDI tracks as much as possible. It's super important. I'm gonna delete this thing because he muted it. Okay, so we're gonna glue all these guys together and it's all in one track now. So I can actually delete this and this, and we just saved 2 instances of Piano V. So that's really that's really efficient there. I'm gonna put it down here. This thing, we're gonna delete it. I'm gonna put a nice little picture of a piano because, you know, it's, you know, Logic. It's gotta be nice. Okay, piano, boom. Piano, and this would be like strings probably. I don't know if it's this violin, but so that's cool. Vocals, lead guitar, rhythm guitar. So I'm actually gonna make at some point another folder. See, it's not glitching anymore, but Logic glitches. So let's see what he got going on here. For effects, it's not so bad because they're there, you know, they're active. Pedal board. What has he got in pedal board? It's for a reverb. So yeah, I'm not sure if they were mixed with autotune or not. So I'm kind of, and honestly, they sound great. Okay, I'm not gonna, you know, like I'm not. The idea is to get a really good performance, and in this case, the vocal performance is really good. The auto-tune, like, as a mixing tool is really to just, like, if ever there are little tiny inconsistencies, especially with vocal harmonies, it just like the reason that it's a mixing tool is it'll actually like the chords are gonna cut better and sit better in the mix if all the notes of the voice, they're in tune. And sometimes because we hear maybe in just intonation and in the auto tune just kind of like so I guess it's kind of like quantizing, it, but like when we put it really subtle and we make the speed not fast of the correction, so it doesn't sound like, a robot or like T-Pain, it's like barely noticeable, but it really does make a difference. So that's why I want to maybe like get into that right now. So we're gonna just, in that case, I'm gonna just delete all of these vocal tracks. So we're already gonna make some space. So we're gonna just keep the ones that are hidden. And I guess you can see which preset he ended up using, classic vocal. So there you go. And that creates those buses, with that we ended up deleting. So yeah, it's complicated when you use presets sometimes because you don't have control. Like it's one thing if you use a preset but I'm talking about the ones over here. There, like these things, like see right there. Don't use that stuff, guys. Don't use it. It's not good. Like on a compressor, you have a preset you like and you tweak it. It's one thing, but I don't like when it starts adding plugins and I don't know what they're really doing. So anyway, so that should be good. Like that. And then we unhide all of these. I forgot one. It doesn't work. Okay, it worked. God damn. Okay, so we could do that and delete this guy. Okay, and now they're all muted, so we're gonna just select everything, and a shortcut to unmute everything is Control M, or because I'm using a Microsoft keyboard on Mac, I know it's weird, but it's probably like Option M. I don't know. I don't know. One of those. Okay. So all the plugins are active. We're gonna look into that because the de-esser's off, and we're really gonna fine tweak this stuff. But we're not gonna go too deep into it. That's another thing. In mixing and mastering, unless you want to spend hours like agonizing over one little thing, which you don't want to do, is you do it in rounds or in layers. Like you do like a basic mixing layer first, set the levels, basic EQ. Then we're going to go back and we're going to maybe tweak a little bit more. And as we go, because if you focus on one thing and you solo it out, it's not in context, and you're going to just have to go back and undo everything anyways. So yeah, make sure to, so anyways, for now, because I'm not really sure what the lead vocals are, like I'm just going to maybe select this one. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to send it to its own bus. Here, let's use one. But, make sure everything is used. At least. So we're going to do LVOX mix. Okay. So, and I'm also going to reset all the faders. So you could hold, I'm holding Alt because, like I said, Microsoft keyboard, and you click and it sets it back to Unity gain. So that's it. But one thing I do always is I set everything to -5. I just take off 5. But for now anyway. And also since we're here, like that's the mastering chain, okay? So and it's not in the right order. Like he put that there when it should be like this. That's the loudness meter. Don't put the loudness meter before the limiter. On en a déjà parlé, mais c'est ça. Mets pas le loudness meter avant le limiter parce que sinon, il va prendre le volume de tout ce qui vient avant le limiter, puis tu n'auras pas un loudness reading qui est correct. Donc, so don't do that, guys. I'm being hard on him, but honestly, like he's awesome. Like he knows what he's doing. It's just it's a lot of plugins and it's a lot to keep it, which is why we're making this live stream, so you guys can take notes and really see how it is. So anyways, now we're gonna delete everything, but I'm gonna keep the limiter on, okay? And the reason I keep the limiter on for mixing and mastering, it's not that bad, but because I'm doing a live stream, so this is kind of like a performance. But if you were also recording people in the studio and they all had their headphones and whatever, the limiter is a safety mechanism. Okay, so you set it to, and it's not even the right type of limiter. We need an add limiter. But any type of limiter, it doesn't matter. They're all pretty much the same. They're all compressors, right? Limiters are basically compressors. Wait, again, I put the wrong one. It's the add limiter we're looking for. There we go, adaptive limiter. So I set the out ceiling. We're gonna set it to -1 anyway, like at the very end, but for now it's fine. Gain 0, and that's it. So that protects the ears. Okay, so like if ever something clips in the recording, something, you know, whatever, it's just a safety mechanism, and you can put that on all your, you know, if you're sending to different headphones, like I always have a limiter. Okay, it doesn't take that much resources, and your computer should be able to handle that kind of stuff even while recording. It's just for protection. So we're gonna leave that on since it's a live stream. But anyways, I'm pretty sure YouTube's got it going on anyway. So anyways, we're just gonna be clearing out these sub mixes now. That's one thing. Okay. And yeah, the drums, like I said, it's gonna be another bus, but we're gonna send it to that bus. That's gonna be the parallel compressed drums. So we can create that right away. I just wanna, okay, so lead vox are created. So there's bass, so we're gonna create bass guitar, and then we're gonna do those drums. And the ending, we're gonna put it in effects because it's, I'm sure you guys picked up on it. It's like a little piano thing. I'm not sure where he got that from. I think it's from one of his demos, but it sounds great actually. It sounds really good. So we're gonna keep that in there, and we're gonna put it in its own bus, probably like FX. We call it or maybe in the piano. We're gonna put it in the piano bus. That's a good idea. So now I'm doing bass mix. Okay, and even if there's just one instrument, like you see, I made a submix just for the piano. Like, okay, like it's because there's like 2 phases of mixing. So I'm also gonna do some stuff in there, some plugins that are like I won't put straight on this bus, which I could, you know, but you'll see like once you're working, it's easier because once we're gonna get all these on the board over here, and we can just mute stuff, you know, so we can actually just mute individual groups of instruments, so we can focus, let's say, just on the drums. It'll be easier that way. It's not recommended while you're composing and producing and recording, but in the mixing phase, like start using sub mixes if you're not doing that already. So it's very important. So this, and I'm also going to show you guys some really cool techniques actually that I've started using in regards to setting levels. I try to avoid using, this is the little teaser, I avoid using the faders. Okay, so that I'm going to explain why and how I go about avoiding using the faders, and just a few. But for now, we're gonna, okay, the bass is routed, the drums, like I said, Steven Slate, but we're gonna do a send. Yeah, so we're gonna do a send to, let's say, number 3, and we're gonna send, we're gonna mix that later, but let's start with 1 or 0. This is gonna be P drum mix, or you know, I don't like when it's, I can't see the thing, so para mix. There you go. Para 1 maybe. I don't think there's going to be anything else that's parallel compressed, so that's cool. And yeah, so we're going to just do that, and we're going to, like I said, so this stuff actually that we got going on here, this is what I want to preserve. Okay, so I don't want to ruin his thing. Like basically, I'll show you guys what it's doing. So if we solo this out and we go like this, you guys see what's going on? Like the arrow, it's basically clipping on the input, okay? Because that's the way the levels, the gain staging is, and that's what's giving that sound, that squashed, you know, like distorted mess of a sound. Like that's what that is. So we can get more of that over here. So that's cool. And this is what it sounds like without it. It's completely different, right? Like it just sounds boring now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix this with that, but we can't do it on one channel. So this is why we need the send. So put that back on. The EQ for now, we're gonna remove it, but the compressor, we're gonna put it right over here. So I'll show you guys what, give me a second, let me make sure everything's good. So just with that, so we have the clean drums. I'm gonna put it back to 0 now. And now we're gonna solo this, and we're gonna solo this. So now we're gonna be hearing clean drums with parallel compressed drums. And I'll start with the parallel compressed drums at 0. So if we can just solo, loop this section, this verse, clean drums. Now start mixing parallel drums in. Aha. Aha. That's a little bit much. Maybe if we do that, you know. Let's mute it. So, and this is kind of like what I mean by not getting too deep into it. Like that's it. Like you just kind of like sketching it out right now. We're like, that's kind of what we're going for. So we're gonna leave it like that. We're obviously gonna tweak it again later on. And another thing I do, and you might think again this is OCD, but it's not. Okay, I always try to round it off to like some clean number, like 5, 10, like just for now, because like it's easier, to like orient myself. We're not in the fine tweaking phase yet, so using round numbers, it just helps because you basically have all these numbers in your mind, and it's a lot easier. Like it's just a word of advice. I don't know. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't, but so that's that. But we're going to stay in the drums. We're going to start with the drums, obviously. Foundation, right? The drums. But this, like I said, we're going to route it to the piano mix. So there you go. That's why we have a piano mix. We got 2. Do I not even have a piano mix? Okay, well, that's fair enough. Let's create the piano mix. So there we go. I'm going to do that. Piano mix. And same thing here, since that's a piano. Boom, call it piano. Clip, I guess. And yeah, everything right now has a submix. So the submixes are created, maybe not the strings. Spoke too soon. And yeah, the vocals, we're gonna have to, that's a mess. We're gonna have to sort that out, but it's good. It's good that you guys are gonna get to see that. And hopefully we'll have time, because that's time consuming, is the cleaning up part. But there you go. You just got a little lesson on the drums there with the parallel compression. So you see, like, you stick around, you're gonna get like really good stuff like that. So just unless you want to wait for the replay, and just skip through the boring stuff. It's not boring. It's very exciting. If you're a mixing and mastering engineer at heart, you love this stuff. String mix. Okay. So piano mix and string mix, we're gonna bring him down -5 just for now, because we're mixing, yeah, the reason that, we're gonna obviously talk about why I avoid using faders in the previous phase, but in this phase of the mix, maybe we will still do it. I'll put like a, what do you call it? A trim. Okay, or a gain, and it's called, I think it's in Pro Tools, it's called the trim, but in Logic, it's called the gain. Which I might just add just to show you guys. So you see, got gain, stereo, and you just do like the -5 thing. Might as well start doing it now, like that. So then you can just set all of these back here, and it's good because you see, as we mix, put that over here. Like as we're adding things, individually they'll be fine, but like once we add everything together, it will be clipping, because you're trying to fit multiple things down like your speaker cone, which is like You know, that's why it's additive. So at each stage of the mix, you want to lower the level. And at the very end with the mastering, that's when we bring everything up. But if you're constantly like adding things and it's getting louder and louder and louder, your gain staging is going to be off. So we want to, so this is a gain staging lesson, okay? We mix down and we master up. I don't know if anybody's ever said it like that, but you know, I definitely have not heard that from anybody. That's one of the things I actually figured out on my own. So you see your paramix over here. So we mix with this thing instead. And I guess I'll just give away I'll spill the beans right now. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? The thing is, you know, like I don't know if it's the same in every DAW, but with Logic, and I guess it would be the same in every DAW, but once we get to automation, right? And let's say you have your level on your bass guitar set to negative 12.5, okay? And we start automating, it's already you have to remember that it's at negative 12.5, and like let's say you're mixing and then you're like, I want to go back and change something, the levels. Well, you've already automated, so you can't just use the fader. Basically, the second you write automation onto your tracks, forget about your fader. You're gonna have to work through the automation, and that's gonna be a pain in the ass if you're still mixing, you know, like from the surface level. So if you're using these gain, I guess call them plugins, it's just gonna make everything at zero. So everything's gonna be at zero. So no matter what, you're always going to be starting from zero. So you have nothing to worry about. So the automation is the only thing you have to worry about, if you have any, but you're mixing from that plugin. So it looks super duper clean. And at the very end, you can make like little tiny tweaks and you still have all the definition in your fader. So you're not like negative 22.5 and, you know, like you have less resolution down there. If you're just doing -1 here, you see how much like it's logarithmic, you know, a fader. So you see when you go down here and it's like, then it's like it gets like exponential. It goes bigger and bigger and bigger and you have less range down here. So that's why it just helps. It's a trick. I'll show you guys some other tricks, especially with the compression. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'm going to show you actually how to get all your instruments pretty much at the same level without using normalizing or any of that stuff. And it's going to be like basically mixing is going to be like little tiny tweaks because everything's going to be at the same more or less level. So make sure to stay tuned for that. So that's that. Submixes are done. Another thing we're going to do is like just make sure they're all on the board. You just click this power button. There you go. See, it does that. So they're all on the track pane. And that's that. That's that. So they should all be there. Let's check it out. Ooh, we're still getting some glitches. So maybe sometimes it's also this thing. Aha. See? You got to learn how to work with Logic, guys. It's doesn't always work with you. Okay, drum mix, paramix, bass mix, put right guitar here, rhythm guitar. We're missing a lead guitar. There you go. L guitar, piano, boom, B Vox, and we're missing lead Vox. Okay, perfect. So that's pretty organized. Okay, so we got our stereo out. Okay, so our buses are done. That's step number 1, mixing and mastering a project. Once you got that set up, you're good to go. You're very close to being good to go. Drums over here, it's only one thing. And add a nice little picture of a drum. Bass guitar. Okay, so we can already do the bass guitar duplication thing. So we're gonna, for now, no, duplicate. Well, let's just duplicate it. You track with duplicate settings, but we're going to delete everything. Okay. So no plugin for this one. So call that one, we're going to actually create a track stack. And something I recommend is always use the folder stack. The summing stack is going to like create a submix already, but the thing is it's going to be very difficult because like everything that's in the sub mix. It's gonna be, you won't be able to like really change things. It's gonna be more difficult to reroute things later on. So with a folder stack, it's just a folder. It just makes it easier. Create your own sub mixes later on. It's that's just personal preference, but I also think there's an advantage. You guys can let me know whether you disagree with that or not. But there we go. So bass guitar, we do amp, and we do DI bass. Okay, we're gonna just copy that. And also there's a lot of automation we're gonna have to get rid of, because like I said, it's all, you know, we're gonna do everything from scratch, and we're gonna listen to it actually what it sounds like once I've done all the basic stuff, and we're gonna see it like that. It's most likely gonna be pretty close. It's most likely gonna be pretty close. So like I said, this one has a preset. God damn, reset channel strip. Perfect. Okay, DI bass is good. Let's just put a little picture of a bass guitar. Nice. Okay, so yeah, we're pretty much ready. So we're gonna start with the drums. So save that. And another thing with the drums, because we're working with Steven Slate drums, like we have to also like, this is something I'm not gonna be able to work on too much now, because there still has to be back and forth. Like he's gonna tell, I think the drum sound is fine, okay, like I like it, but he might tell me like, you know, like change the snare drum, whatever. We can definitely do that, you know, we got Steven Slate drums. But right now I'm not gonna focus on that, okay. I'm just gonna assume that this is the sound, and you've already got your mixer in Steven Slate drums. And what I'm gonna show you guys how to do is how to route, okay, whether you recorded a live kit or you have like the stems, or you got like, you know, an artist, you know, that knows how to use like the DAW that you're using, and it has like, you know, software instruments giving you MIDI. Like we're gonna show you how to route. So the drums, now we're gonna add, these are like outputs, okay. So we're gonna route, you know, the kick drum to its own thing, the snare drum to, so we basically have different tracks for each drum, and we can isolate them and treat them individually. So that's advanced. If you want to just, you know, EQ and compress the thing as a whole, you can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but and sometimes it's fine. But I'm gonna show you guys how to do it. It's not that it's not professional. It's just that it'd be better, you know, if you really like have isolated stuff, which you would anyways, like if you're using microphones. So this is what we're trying to like replicate, is like actually having recorded a drum. You know, if you're mixing this way, just with that bus, it's like almost like you just recorded your drum with like, well, basically like the setup in the back, which is like just 2 microphones, and it's a stereo mix, and it's just that. That's all you have to work with. So this way we have, you know, it's like you're recording with multiple microphones. So right now, I'm not gonna do too much, because I don't use all of them, you know, all the outputs. I use like one for bass drum, snare drum, toms. We're gonna have hi-hat, we're gonna have overhead and room, and that's it. So hi-hat, and we're missing 2 other ones. So hi-hat, overhead, and room. And another thing, like, you know, since I can do it from here, is I'm just gonna mute, because I don't think, I mean, you could if you need that much definition, you know, like that much precision, but I just mute the ride, mute the China, mute the splash. These are individual microphones for these cymbals. They are being picked up anyways in the overhead and in the room mic. So if you really need like a microphone for that specific drum, you know, help yourself. But anyways, but the hi-hat though, I like having a microphone just for the hi-hat, because you get more of that stick attack. It's good, okay? And especially in this case, because there's like those like rushy kind of like hi-hat parts, you really want to have that stick attack. So we're gonna leave that the way it is. Okay, so now the kick. First thing we have to do though is like make sure, like, each software instrument is different. This one I know how it works. So these are like all the stereo outputs, and these are the mono outputs. So kick drum gets mono 1, which is A17 in this case. Snare drum gets mono 18, okay? These are mono instruments, same thing. Well, the toms are different. The toms actually get stereo out 1. Hi-hat gets a mono. We were at 19. And these ones get the rest of the stereos. So get 5 and 6, which are actually like, 3 and 4. And well, the main output is 1 and 2. That's why it's very complicated when it gets to that stuff. So I hope I'm not losing you guys, but there you go. So that's basically that. And now we actually have to route from the instrument itself. So we go to, you see over here, it says MN, ST. MN is for mono. And yeah, also I should get Steven Slate Drums 5. I've been meaning to. I love Steven Slate Drums. Like, that's my drum sample library of choice. I really highly recommend it if you're looking for a really good drum sample library. Not sponsored by them, but I should be. Boom. Okay, there's a lot of snare drums. You see how they're layering snares? That's another mixing technique, actually. Like, you can do it within your software instrument, but if you're working with stems, audio files, you might actually have to synchronize another snare on top of what's already there to beef it up or to add something. You can't do everything with EQ. Like, sometimes you actually have to add something to the mix. So that's usually going to be the kick or the snare. The rest of the drums, you can't really do that much, but kick and snare can be replaced or layered. Toms, maybe. So stereo 2, I'm not sure actually. No, it's stereo 1. These are all stereo 1. And the hi-hat is, like I said, is going to boom, boom, and 11, right? Yeah. And we got overhead going to 2 and room going to 3. So that should work. So we're just going to solo that part out. I'm going to show you guys what it sounds like. Okay. The reason it's doing that, I think, is because we're soloing from here. If I solo here, see what it does. Oh, it's still not doing it. Interesting. Because they're not being routed, first of all. So these got to be routed to drum mix. And this one could be routed to nothing. And this actually is going to be, well, no send, but we're going to send all of these. So like now on top of it all, we can control each individual drum in the parallel compression mix. So like we can, like if we want to like squash the kick drum more than, other things. So that's, you see how we're getting more precision out of this method. It's very, very good technique right there. So if you guys start doing that, oh, that's the wrong one. You're going to look really pro and sound really pro. Versus if you just did, add it like at the beginning. Okay, so room, boom. Okay, so we're gonna just bring it up. Start him off like that, but I think there's still somewhat of an issue. I don't know why. We'll see if it's playing after that. If they're routing properly, because it's possible that there's some sort of glitch. Okay, let's find out. Okay, already there's nothing. Let's try, oh, there might be something. Let's do that in parallel. There we go. The room mic for some reason doesn't seem to be working, so we're gonna have to fix that. But already you see the kick and snare, they're freaking loud. So we're gonna go here, and already like it's not a good idea actually. I'm gonna show you guys right now what I do with the compressor to make everything. And I guess best example to show it off with is the drums, because like you see, like this is a problem. Like now everything is like not like these guys are technically clipping, and these guys are like way too low. So Oh, I know. No. What did I do wrong? Anyways, we'll look into that after. Anyways, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put EQs, and it doesn't matter. They're just like this is like my default. That's what I have like set as my default. For now, just to have them because we're gonna obviously be EQing everything. All of these guys, okay. But the compressor I actually do first, even though it's second. And this is my default preset. So at some point, I will maybe in the description later on, or you know, in future installments of this series, I'm going to be giving you guys links to where you can actually download my presets, like these, what I call like my starter presets. So you can actually just, like have this, to work with. It's like just a bare bones, like, like these levels. Like for example, the reason I set at -18, I'm not going to get into it, but if you set your threshold, and this is me explaining my secret trick that I came up with on my own, although someone else might have already come up with it, and I'm just, but -18, your threshold on the compressor ratio, like, 4:1 is like a good starting thing. It's not overly compressed. You can always tweak that later if you want, more or less. Makeup gain, I set it to 0, and I don't even use it. And auto gain, I set it to off. Very important. The knee really doesn't matter that much, but it's basically, look, I'll show you on the graph. See how it just rounds off. If it's 1, it's more of a natural sound. This is more of a harsh. It doesn't make that much of a difference, but it's basically the difference between a smoother compression and a harsher compression. Attack, since we're working with the drums, it's going to depend on the drum, but for the most part, I'm like more in the range of like 5 milliseconds. If we're talking about kick and snare drum, that kind of stuff, we're in the 5 millisecond range, 5 to 10, let's say, or like, why don't we just say 0 to 10, depending on what kind of effect you want, because we really want to reduce the transient. In this case, we want more sustain, so to get more sustain, we reduce the transient. And the release, I leave it on auto, okay? Threshold, that's the limiter. I put it on just in case. But now, like, once you have this basic preset, and you choose whatever type of compression you want. I go with vintage because I like vintage. But we're gonna only be working with the input gain. So we're gain staging now, using the compressor, not using the fader. We're not using the EQ or an individual gain plugin, which we only do that in the sub mixes. We're gain staging with the input and with the output gain. So let me show you how, but I'm gonna have to just get rid of this, and now we're gonna solo this kick drum. Okay, so, you see how, we're gonna be targeting about 5 dB of gain reduction. So this arrow cannot go higher than the 5. On the loudest, we're looking really for the loudest kick. You don't want more than -5, but we're aiming for -5. So not like less than -3, between -3 and -5 dB of gain reduction. So let's do it with the input gain, okay? So we're pretty much there, okay? Okay. Sometimes let it play, like it'd be easier if you had audio because you can actually see the visual representation and you can get the loudest part. So when you're working with compression, basically what I'm telling you is to get the loudest part, use your that part as your reference. But it's pretty good, okay? And that's it. So you're gonna see though, because we're gonna do the whole kit now, and might as well just copy them because we're gonna just tweak them for each individual drum. And the output gain, like, that's what you could use, to mix instead of a gain knob, because it's already there. It's integrated into the compressor. Like, instead of mixing with the fader, we're going to mix with the output gain. Just giving you guys like a little sneak peek at what we're actually going to use that for. But okay, so now we did the kick drum. Let's do the snare drum. Okay. So in this case, maybe we want a bit less than 8, maybe 7. Yeah, that's about right. Okay. It's already good. Toms. So bass drum, snare drum, and toms, whatever, well, it doesn't have to be this way, but whatever attack you set, I mean, we know what, why not? Let's do it. So if the kick drum's on 5, let's put the snare drum on 6, and this toms on 7. So we're kind of staggering, okay? So the compressors, they're not all gonna activate at the same time. They're actually gonna be like 1 millisecond apart, and that makes a difference. So it's gonna be like, it's not gonna make like a vacuum, you know, on that one. And you can play with that. Okay, that's the reason you would want to like not set them exactly at the same. It's fine if all the drums are like, honestly, I usually do it and it doesn't make much of a difference, but definitely do not set all your instruments at the same millisecond, because at the same attack, sorry, the attack speed, because then you will have this vacuum at, like, let's say everything's set to 5 milliseconds, you're gonna whoop, and it's not gonna sound pleasant, you know, or artistic or anything like that. So toms. Aha. Okay. Okay, so we actually have, I know what the problem is now. So stereo 1 is the main output, so the toms, we actually got to send them to 2. That's why I'm telling you guys, you got to know your instruments, how they are routed and stuff, like what the labeling is like, because otherwise you end up with stuff like this and it gets complicated. But now I remember, so this should be good. There we go. Now we're set. Just got to actually find a part with the toms. Well, we can just use that one as the reference. So there you go. You see the level is like way lower. There you go. So now we got a boost. Okay. And remember, like the reference, the threshold, now it's like the ceiling. Okay, so when we're talking about the threshold, it is the ceiling. So everything is going to be set. It's going to be like basically peaking at around -18 after the compression. There you go. That's pretty good. So I set it to what, 7? Okay, so let's go with the hi-hats now. Usually these ones, we got to boost them a lot there, but. And I'm going to tell you one thing too. Let's say, okay, so maybe for the kick, snare, and toms, we wanted, oh, we got Jean-François actually. There we go, man. Nice. So we actually have the composer, artist, and creator of this track live with us right now. I don't know if he's still here, but salut Jean-François, j'espère que tu vas bien, mais ouais, voici le live stream. So there we go. It's always nice to get visitors. So anyways, we're going to keep working on this hi-hat. So we're going to get less, okay, less gain reduction on the hi-hat, you know, so it sounds more articulate and stuff because it's the hi-hat. So maybe like this will aim, you know, a bit more down here, like around like the 2, -3 of gain reduction. But also use your ears, because you see how it's changing the sound, you know, like, so like, with the fact that it's like that, you see, that's just the sound. Maybe it's the articulations, they sound a bit robotic, so we might go play in the MIDI for that, you know, like, you know, randomize it or something, like just make it sound a little bit more human, because that's something we're going to do a bit later on. But for now, let's just okay, that's good. That's good. So the hi-hat now is like set to the same level as these guys. Let's do the overheads. Okay, the overhead's not the same thing there, but well, the overheads is, but the room mic would not be exactly the same thing. For the overheads, a bit more conservative. A bit more conservative. And the attack time, we're going to bring it up maybe to 10. Reason why we're going to actually maybe even bring it up to 15 is the reason is that we want to actually let more of the transients pass for the overheads. Potentially, I don't know. We might actually I might actually change my mind later on. And the same thing for the hi-hat. You definitely want more transient, especially for the hi-hat mic. So I might go like that, and actually for the overheads, I might actually just bring it down a little bit. So we get a little bit best of both worlds. Because you see that this microphone, we want the stick definition. So I'm going to let the transient pass more than it normally does. And that will affect your input gain. So I'm going to have to actually go back maybe later on to tweak that. But the overhead should be good the way it is now. Yeah. A bit more conservative. Like really we want the bass drum, snare drum, toms to be pretty much at the same levels, but the overheads in room are obviously going to be a bit lower, especially the room mic. So, you know, you can actually really squash the room mic. Depends what you want more of. In this case, I want, I'll set it to the same thing as the overheads. Maybe at 12 for this one. Okay. And right away, I'm gonna do -10 on the room. So you see what we're doing is we're just getting the compression set with the input gain, and then after that, we're mixing with the output gain. And so that should like now if we play the drum kit as one, we just use the drum mix. Nice. Okay. So let's listen to the drums. Now you're gonna see all the levels are gonna be pretty much the same. Or rather here. Yeah. So I don't know if you guys can see the faders, but the faders they're a lot more evened out than they were before. But the thing is, the kick is actually like a lot quieter for some reason. So that is something we're gonna tweak. But the hi-hat obviously is something we're gonna have to bring down. So we bring that down -10 as well. And same thing maybe with the overheads. Let's see. Another obviously reference you can use is like these readings. You can actually see where your highest peak was. So like, for example, if you wanted everything to actually be pretty much at the same level, 100%, because they're not all being compressed at the same, by the same amount. So you see the kick drum could give it a little boost, like a little 5 dB boost. Let's hear it with the tom. The tom you see is a bit too loud. So we mix it over here like this. No, it's not loud enough. think that's a pretty good mix for now. I'm not gonna get too obsessed with it, but let's listen to it with the parallel. Still think the hi-hat's a bit too loud. See the difference it makes without the room mic? So this one I want it, you know, to sound really like roomy and like trashy a little bit. So you see, like I don't want it to sound clean at all. So we need that room mic and it to be louder than normally. So because on other tracks, I would probably bring it down more like to -20. You know, now it's at -10. You really want that big boomy like room sound in there. Could also do that with reverb, but we got the real thing. So I think that's a pretty good mix for the drums to start off with. So we're gonna leave it at that for the drums, but yeah, I hope you guys hear at least the difference that it made, like that we set everything. Basically now everything like with the compressor is like -18. And if you do that with every single compressor, that's why your threshold should always be the same. Like it really doesn't matter where you set it at the end of the day, but as long as all your compressors on your tracks are set to -18, and you know, let's say you want about like 5 dB a gain reduction on each instrument, like you know, like the levels based on that -18 ceiling, they're all going to be pretty much the same amplitude. So that's why this is why I work this way. It makes it easier to mix. And if you were actually using the faders, you would see that maybe before you had to do like really big moves with the faders, but now you're probably going to just be working with the like little, you know, little tweaks instead. So it's going to give you more, your range is going to get smaller. So you're kind of like compressing, you know, your faders, you know, if that makes sense, like visually speaking. You need less range to get to the results that you're trying to get. So let's do that. We already did that. So basically now, if I want to have more, well, maybe we'll do that later. How much we're sending to each parallel, how much of each channel we're sending to the parallel mix. For now, it sounds all right. So I'm going to keep cleaning up a little bit. So I'm going to remove this for now. 2 BQ on the strings, remove it. So we're pretty much cleaned up. So we're still ready to continue. The next thing we're going to work on is bass. And I'm just going to do a quick time check, because potentially might have to do this in 2 episodes. But for now, we're already on track. And you know what? I get the feeling we might have to do it into 2 episodes. This is just going to be probably instrumental, and what the vocals are probably going to be an episode in and of their own. But let's not lose hope. Let's not lose hope. Okay, so let's solo the bass out. See what the bass sounds like on its own. Also, another thing, like right now, like we're just doing the basic mixing. Like obviously I'm just working with one section, but like that, you can't do that. You gotta obviously listen to the whole mix, the whole track, sorry. But for now, it's fine. Just pick a section. At the beginning, just pick a section and you can make your adjustments later. But we're going to listen, obviously, to each individual submix throughout to make sure that everything is consistent, you know, like the compression level. Like, for example, when we get to the chorus, let's say the drums get louder, you know, and then it's like now we're getting more like 10 dB of gain reduction on the compressor. Like, that's not good. So we're going to have to adjust ourselves accordingly. But at that point, if it was that drastic, I would actually like, you know, either like split them up into 2 tracks or something, you know, make the chorus its own thing. Like, but we're gonna get into that later. It's most likely not the case anyway. So bass guitar and the thing I was talking about with the DI. So now we're gonna, I don't know why that's muted. Is it not being sent? Okay, that's why it's not going to the bass mix. Perfect. Okay, set everything back to Unity. Okay, basically let's you know, play on words basically. But let's hear what it sounds like without the DI. So these look the same, but this is going through an amp. It's going through it, you know, which I would do that first. I would put the amp first. So this is the first thing it hits is the amp. Then we got our EQ and our compressor, which actually I'm going to delete because I'm going to make my own. Okay. This is just the amp. If we take it off, I'm just wondering why there's a guitar going through it. That is or maybe they're all going through it. Is that possible? Maybe it's just this one. Let's find out. Let's find out. Yeah, no. I don't know why I'm hearing guitar. I really have no idea. Let's just try the bass. That is weird. Oh, okay, that makes sense. They're being sent to the bus, that's why. Okay, guess we didn't finish cleaning up after all. No sand, cool. Okay, we should be good to go.
How I managed.
Perfect. Just the bass amp, so now if we take off the amp, this is just DI, the DI sound. Okay, pretty good DI sound, not too much noise. Get more the gritty, the distortion. Okay, now we start mixing in the DI bass. Let's like set it to -5 just for fun. The difference. But you're not gonna hear much of a difference now because we have to split them up tonally speaking first, and that's what we're gonna do now. The amp is gonna have like the low end, okay? It's gonna be focused on the low end, and the DI bass is gonna be focused. It's gonna be like just to fill in the cracks and to get more. And this is a huge trick, you know, for getting your bass to cut on like, or to hear it on like, for example, a smartphone or on, you know, speakers that don't do sub bass or, you know, bass at all. Is the DI bass is going to be used to cut, you know, like it's going to have like, you're still going to hear the bass, but it's going to be focused on the like low mids to, you know, to the highs, I guess. And the amp is going to be really focused on that low end because, you know, the amp gets really the low end. The DI bass is not so good for the low end. That's why you usually need a bass amp. It's, you know, the volts, the wattage is to get really those, you know, those low frequencies to sound really good. So the first thing we're going to do is put an EQ. And we're going to, for now, I set to 40 hertz, you know, because really anything below 40, 30 hertz is like rumbling, you know. So for now, we're going to use that to just clean up the mix, but we can add it in later if we want that kind of a bass. But I don't think it's going to be the case for this one. I think the kick drum is going to take more of the sub frequencies. So we're going to keep it at 40 for now. And since this is the low bass, I usually put a low pass filter on 5,000 hertz. So that's what it looks like, the low bass. Just the basic thing now. We're not getting into like specifics just yet. So you might find this weird, but 250 hertz for the DI bass and 10,000 hertz low pass. Okay, and that the reason like you're gonna hear them individually now because I'm gonna, let's say, mute this guy. Okay, that's what we want for the DI bass, just that, like that kind of a sound. Okay, and for the amp, you get more of the fullness. Now we mix them together because we made the space, and you're gonna hear a difference. You should hear a difference already. you see already on the attack, listen to the difference, without DI, with DI. You have the more attack already. So that's something we're gonna refine more later with the actual tweaking of the EQ. Like actually the DI bass is gonna have a lot more cutting involved. Like we're really gonna just leave like those like cutting frequencies. So it's just like an enhancer of the bass that's already there. But this one has like the darkness, the the fatness. It has all of that stuff. So we're not getting into big EQ moves just yet. And yeah, I'm really starting to think that 2 hours is not enough for this. So it's okay. We're gonna do another episode. It's gonna work. But for now, like what I would like to get done before the end of this live stream is just the basics. Okay, that's something I'm pretty damn sure we can pull off. So we're gonna do the same thing as the drums. We're gonna go compressor. We're gonna go compressor, and we're gonna go compressor, and let's just do one at a time. So instead of like soloing here, we're gonna solo here. So already the levels are pretty good. Maybe a little 2.5. Yeah, that's good. Attack for the bass. Since this is the, we want like sustain on this one, okay? So we're actually gonna cut the transient quite a bit. So maybe we might go like 4 milliseconds. Or we don't want to synchronize, like you have to be careful actually with the bass because you don't want it to be, conflicting with the kick drum. So if the kick drum is being compressed at 5 milliseconds, we might actually want to leave it a little bit more space to cut. So that's why I want to go before the kick drum, at least for the woofy, part of it, which is the sub bass. So like in that case, I might go 4 milliseconds for now. We'll see what it sounds like later. Let's just leave it at 4 milliseconds. And I'm actually going to show you guys a trick that's going to get your sub bass, really under control and really tight. And that's going to be using a multi-band compressor. And I might actually do that before this compressor in this case. Since parallel, I keep saying parallel, it's dynamic, yes, dynamic EQ. So multi-band compression, it's also referred to as dynamic EQ because it's really kind of like a hybrid of EQing and compression. So I'm gonna show you how I go about really cleaning up the low end of the bass, like getting that to sound super tight. And its Logic has it default. Not every DAW has, they call it the multipressor, but not every DAW has a multi-band compressor. So I start with a 2-band compressor. Okay, as long as you got 2 bands. Actually, you could just recall the default and you can disable like that. So we set this to 100 Hertz. You see over here. Okay, and this is creating a 2-band compressor. So basically now we're gonna have control over, like we don't want to touch really the high end, we just want to affect the low end. So if we're just doing this, we could actually solo it, which is really cool. So now we're just hearing like the low end. And let's see, compressor threshold, let's set that to, we could actually do it from here. But like already it's working, so that's good. The attack, we're gonna set it relatively fast. Like I said, I was gonna do 4 milliseconds. So we really want to squash that transient for the sub frequencies, okay? That's why we use a like I might not even use the regular compressor in this case because we're gonna obviously use another compressor in the sub mix, so we can just work with this one on the actual instrument bus. The release, I set to 250 because I don't want any messing around, like it's almost the equivalent of setting it to auto, but it's not. Let's turn the auto gain off. leave it at 0. Okay. And now the expander threshold is basically going to give us, like, this is like basically it's like 2 thresholds you get to set. The ratio we're going to set to 4. Start off at 4 or around 4, as close to it as we get. Reduction is going to be the top threshold. This guy over here, sorry, that's the compressor. I was hitting the wrong thing. So you see how it's reducing? So you wanna get, and we can see on the levels, right? You can see how much it's reducing. That's about -10. So maybe a little bit much, but it's not as much as you think, because we really want to squash that low end for it to be consistent. I think that's about right. So what did we set it here? We set the threshold to this. Let's say -34, and expander threshold, we can actually just set it to -60. We're not going to play with that. Okay. So it's not compensating right now for the gain, because now we're actually going to use the makeup gain in this plugin. So now if we unsolo it, now listen to what happens if we actually start boosting the makeup gain. Now we're EQing basically with a compressor. See, you have like a really solid low end now, and it's not like, whoa, you know, it's not like wavering there. It's very consistent. Look at what happens if we bypass it. See, you have basically a sub bass now. Okay, you got it in there using this multi-band compressor, and you mix using this gain makeup, and like you see, nothing's happening on the actual on the rest of the range, and that's exactly how you want to see it. Compress a little bit there, so I might set the threshold a little bit higher or lower. I always forget how it. It's very confusing. Decibels. Okay, there we go. Maybe like 12, just to be on the safe side. I don't even want to touch it. If it does it a little bit, it's not the end of the world there, but there we go. So bypass. And like, I'd like to show you guys this without actually the plugin. It's more obvious on bass parts that are like, you know, you're really like digging into it and stuff, but like this, like, you know, like 8th notes kind of stuff, but because these are longer notes, maybe we can have one over here. Okay, now listen to the consistency now. Much better, eh? Okay, so that's that. And like I said, I'm probably not, well, I could always put another compressor. I'm not gonna over compress it there, because like this would be like to compress the entire bass, so we're gonna have to obviously do that. So let's set the attack to the same thing, 4 milliseconds. It's too much, see? Don't be afraid to compress your bass. It doesn't, like, the high end is one thing, but that's why we have the DI bass. The DI bass is gonna preserve a lot of the dynamics. The low end takes up too much dynamic range, so we really want to squash that thing. Okay, so we got that going, pretty damn good. Okay, so now we're gonna do DI bass. Like I said, it's already EQ'd, we just gotta do this. There we go. The attack, okay, that's it. We want more transient for this guy, so maybe I'll set it to, I don't know, like 8. See, that was a little bit much. Maybe we bring it down to 8. There we go. Okay, now let's hear them together. Let's hear them, or we could just solo them like this. remove the DI bass. Ha! What a difference, eh? Listen to this. Without the amp. There we go. I think that's a good balance for now. Well, like if we stick to my original plan, which is to use just this, mix from that. Our levels are still set at 0. Let's see. Now, if we have to do automation, we have a clean slate to work from. So that's why, once again, why I do this. I try to avoid using these faders as much as possible because they're gonna be used for automation. And worst comes to worst, I don't use them at all. Nobody says you have to use them. You could use them like, well, you know, you're composing and stuff, you know, but like, I don't know. I just like to keep things a bit cleaner this way. But wow, what a difference with the bass. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, you guys want to hear it completely like without nothing? This is what it sounded like before. Okay, let's put everything back on. It's a lot more like tamed. Maybe I want some more sub bass. Without parallel compression. You get that low end now. Definitely get that low end. And obviously, like, it's gonna be a bit more difficult to get, like, or it's, no matter what we did, we weren't gonna be able to finish this, you know, like on the live stream, because I have to obviously like start with monitoring with my, you know, my reference monitors and like, you know, testing it on different speaker sets and stuff. Like, that's obviously something I can do right now, feed back into the mic. So, you know, but do that, you know, you can't just mix with headphones. Like, you got to use speaker monitors, even if they're not the best, like just to hear like the sound stage. So what it sounds like in the room, even if your room is not the acoustically treated or whatever, like, you still want to like test the stuff on as many surfaces, especially the ones that most people are using, which is like earbuds, you know, like AirPods, smartphones. Like, you're gonna have, if you want to get a really good mix and master, like, you have to test it out on all these surfaces. But that's a very like towards the very end, we're not you know, and well, not that we're not anywhere close to that, but we're not there yet. Okay, so now I'm just resetting these folder stacks things, and you see the problem is that these are actually not folder stacks. That's what I was saying. These are they're not folders. They're summing stacks, which I, you know, like I said, I don't like summing stacks. If I'm not mistaken, I could be mistaken. I could definitely, no, I'm definitely mistaken. So these are fine. So now we're gonna work on guitars next, rhythm guitars. And let's see. We're already like pretty much there, but see, you got a preset up there, Brit and Clean, which is, once again, I don't like using these presets because it's gonna create stuff that you don't necessarily know what it's doing, but we got the pedals in there. So I'm just gonna remove the channel EQs. I don't know why these are not activated. I'm gonna remove the channel EQ and the compressor. That's all I'm gonna do for now. And the compressor, because I'm gonna do them all individually because I want to set my levels. And another thing I'm gonna do, like, in, you know, in regards to cleanup, is actually get rid of all the automations for now, you know. And, you know, maybe at this point we can actually listen to the track, what it sounds like, you know. once it's been stripped down, you know, just so you guys get an idea, you know, already of what's happening and what's already going on, you know, with what we've done. It shouldn't sound that much different than from the beginning, but you know, we've obviously removed mastering, we've removed like a lot of reverb stuff, you know, in regards to buses and, you know, sends. So it's gonna sound different. I think we can just leave it at that for this one. Okay. And you see, like, this is like this kind of stuff. Plus 6 dB, like, that's why it's so much better to not use. See, like, this automation is completely useless. This one maybe is useful, but we're gonna fix it later. I'll be the judge of that. Okay, these I'm not even sure if they're that useful. Sometimes, especially when you're working with audio, instead of doing stuff like this, it's better to actually just use the, like, you have it over here, you know, like you have your gain, like you set it from here if you want to make little, like, automation is really like if you need a curve or something. Like if you're just setting like levels with your automation, you're better off doing that with the, you know, like cutting the clip or something. It really depends, but automation for me is like for like fade ins, fade outs, you know, like stuff that's actually gonna require an automation for volume's sake anyway. For volume's sake. Boom. Like that might be useful, but we'll check it out later. Because like I said, I want to set everything. Okay, so the Vox we're not gonna, well, yes we are. Gonna remove it all. It's like we're starting from scratch, but not 100%. Like we still got a lot of stuff done already for us, but you know, it's okay. We always have our original mix. If ever we want to redo these automations and be like, you know, what was happening, like what was different with the original. But if I can't hear it, like if I can't hear it like with my ears, like that, you know, like it's doing this fade in thing, like, you know what I mean? Like it has to be at least something that's otherwise we can just, it's not that, like it's not essential. We can always just do it, you know, reevaluate later on if it's even necessary to do that. That's why the automation is really the last thing on the list, always. The last thing. Last, very last. Because otherwise it makes mixing almost impossible, right? Because once you have your automation, you can't just set your levels, you know? That's why, like, when you do have automation, I could have actually just left everything the way it is and just used, I mean, that's why, like, normally these tracks, they would be bounced as is with the automation and stuff, which I'm pretty sure they were. I don't know if you had added more automation, but, like, it's like, that's when you would use the gain plugin to actually mix because you can't touch your fader anymore. So that's why I'm saying, like, and if you're doing automation, it's much better to start off from 0 than it is from -10. See, like already they're at like negative this, negative that. Like I'm gonna set everything back to 0 so we have like really a clean slate. And anyways, I wanted to definitely show you guys like what automation looks like and how you go about making those decisions and doing it. And so it's definitely important stuff. But for now, let's just set everything back to 0. Okay. Boom. Nice. Okay. Let's solo the guitars out. Close the vocals. Okay, the lead guitars we'll do later. So these are the rhythm guitars, technically. Okay. And yeah, for some reason, these are not set to -5. Little details. Does it really matter at the end? Because basically I had already put the gain. And then this one needs this. Okay, everything back to 0. Had I done? Let's see. Yep. It's very easy to forget what you were doing once you get deep into this process. Okay, so the stereo out 2 had a automation on it. How about this guy? Perfect. Okay, just gonna check the time quick. Okay, we got about 15 minutes. I think maybe we can plow through these guitars, but yeah, definitely this is gonna take another episode. Well, it's not as quick. I mean, like when you're doing everything from scratch, like definitely like it does take time, but already you can see like we got pretty far. And don't forget, guys, I'm explaining things, I'm talking a lot. You really just concentrated on this, you can probably finish a track in 2 to 4 hours depending on the size of the project. But anyways, let's get back to work. Right, rhythm guitar. Okay, so gain is fine for now. Let's just open it up and wrong folder. Let's just go straight into actually setting some EQs down. And I mean, like for guitar, I'll tell you guys, it's just start it off at 80 hertz and do the thing at 10K. Low pass, and that's your basic guitar EQ, no matter what. Like these are the frequencies that we don't either hear or don't need. It's just better to do it like that. So we go like this. Okay. And like that. That's your basic guitar EQ. And you know, like while I'm at it, like the drums, I'll just explain to you guys the drums, you know, to make sure you get everything you need from this episode. The kick drum, it depends. It could be anywhere between, like, I guess, technically speaking, I don't usually go down to 20, but again, like 40 to 60. It depends if your kick is like a sub kick and you want more of like the sub frequencies. In this case, it seems like the bass is going to do more of the sub. So I'm going to cut at 60 hertz. And the bass, I might actually bring it down more to like 35 or something like that. But, you know, same thing. Kick drum at 10K. Snare drum. Oh, wrong plugin. Snare drum is 80. It's like almost like the same range as guitar. Do the 10K, the same kind of, not exactly the same, obviously, but it's similar. Same thing with toms. You can do 60 hertz if you have like, you know, but it's better to do 80. Like 60, you'll still get maybe a little bit too much resonance in the low end with the floor tom. Depends what kind of sound you want, but if you want more like, you know, almost like tribalistic, you know, like toms, like really big resonant, like 60 hertz. Hi-hat is 250. And you leave it to 20K. Overheads, same thing, because we don't want like the, you know, we're gonna hear the kick and the snare and all that stuff, but we don't want like the low end from the kick. We just want like the transients and stuff and the high end. So we leave at 20K for that. For the room, honestly, we just want to get rid of the same thing. We do at 250. We want to get rid of the low end. Depends. You can still tweak that. It's like a reverb. Think of the room mic as kind of like a reverb. And you know, most of the time putting bass low frequencies to reverb is not, you know, doesn't usually work out. It clutters the mix up too much. So anyways, that was for drums. You're not gonna hear much of a difference. This is to clean up, okay, the frequencies and to create more headroom. So that's done. And we're definitely gonna listen to like drums and bass. And if we can get guitar done real quick, at least with the compressors, just to set our levels. Like we could at least listen to our rhythm section. So afterwards, we're gonna just have like the lead guitars, piano stuff, strings, which is like, ornamentation in this case. Not necessarily there, but the track can probably stand just without those instruments. Those are really like decorative instruments in this case. So we put our compressor and gotta solo it out, right? So guitar, you definitely want transients, you want pick attack. There's not much room for depends, right? Like maybe the lead guitar, you might want it to sustain more, but the rhythm guitars, we need transients. So like you don't want to go too low with your attack speed. I would say like 10 to 15 range is good, but we can maybe do 11 for now. And let's just set the levels. Okay, so that's pretty good. So if I can copy that across the board, it should be pretty good. And a good way if you want to work quicker, right? Let's say like this, your deadline was approaching, right? Which it kind of is in our case. You're going to see, you're going to see like the gain and logic, it's over here. You're going to see it. So like you can visually see how much gain, how much it's compressing, how much gain reduction is happening. So see how this one's like way too much. Okay, so we're gonna change that. I think this is the one I need. That one's fine. Yeah, the guitars sound great now. Could just do another section. And you can see obviously where it's coming from. So at the same time, I wonder if there are tracks with nothing on. Aha. So you see, you got to be careful. Sometimes you got tracks, they have nothing on it. So obviously delete those. And yeah, this one, nothing. Are there regions on this? Oh, there are. Okay. My bad. And Warm British Combo over here has nothing. Okay. So there we go. Perfect. So now we can, like once again, like you can see already here. So maybe we can do this section. So there we go. Massive overload there. My bad. So these can all, so still a lot. Maybe like, and you understand maybe a bit more with the guitar example. What we're doing with these compressors is like now everything's gonna be like even. It's kind of like normalizing. You could kind of think of this as like normalizing the audio, but in a way where it actually makes it, like you're also getting compression out of the way at the same time. So maybe we go like this. Okay, -7 is good. You can always select the track to make it a little bit easier for you to find later. So it's pretty good already. So these ones are done. Now we gotta focus on these ones. So yeah, this one is just over here. So let's just compress this guy. Okay. Okay, definitely gotta reduce this one. Okay. we're there. Let's see how this one behaves. Pretty sure, yeah, this one's already been done. So now it's just these guys. Loudest part over here. You see, but like you can actually see it visually how this and this and this can already start doing with the gain over here. So this, these are like our exiting kind of tips, I guess. We're gonna start closing up soon, but like already you see you can start mixing this way. So this is one of the last maybe tips that I'm gonna give you guys for today. But you see how visually, like this is great technology. Like we can actually see what it looks like. You don't want to have like on the same track. If these were different tracks, it's one thing, but on the same track, like you probably had automation on this to bring it down, but it's so much easier to just do it with the gain and more efficient rather. It's not always a question of what's easier, but like in this case, it's more efficient. But the rest looks pretty good. So yeah, honestly, the rest, but you see how this, well, it's muted, but visually we can do a little inspection. You see how here it gets a bit louder. You can bring it down, like, just to, this is, again, it's kind of like normalizing. We just want to get everything. It's also kind of like compression, I guess, but these are all things that involve setting levels. 1,000,001 different ways to get consistent levels, but looks pretty good. Relatively speaking, we're doing good. So anyways, I don't know why this is soloed out, but we can zoom out now and we can go over here and just do like maybe this section. Yeah, these are way too loud. Starting over here. So okay, so we're gonna copy that across the board, and this should do it, actually. This should do for all the guitars. Okay. Not bad. Okay, so now, like I said, we're closing up, pretty much, closing up shop. I just want to listen to this all the way through. Just drums, paramix, bass, and guitar. So we're gonna see what we've done so far and what it sounds like. I'm gonna remove this, maybe just put it here for now. Okay, let's go for it. Where the piano would be in lead guitars. Already the kick drum. Kick drum's a bit too loud. Or the hi-hats. Save us a plugin.
bass is really like much better, much more of a foundation there. Yeah. Drums sound way more articulate and natural, but also with the parallel compression effect. Guitars probably gonna bring it down. Mixing while we're listening, that's something, this is the right time to do it, this kind of stuff. Kind of like a live mixing, right? That's what this workshop's all about. Next episode we're probably gonna get into like fading in, like really cleaning up like the audio tracks, and making sure the sustains, everything ends like nice and clean. There's sometimes some things are cutting out here and there. You're gonna have to we're gonna work on that next episode. We're gonna look into the pro stuff. Okay, we got a last little section here. Okay, there we go. So yeah, I hope that you guys got like something out of this today. I mean, like just to see it happening right in front of your eyes, like that's I personally learn best that way, when I actually see when it's kind of like you're sitting in with a mixing and mastering engineer, you're seeing the way it's going. So anyways, I'm super excited for this album release, like this project, this music. I absolutely love Jean-François's work. It's honestly like definitely have a personal investment in this project, and we're gonna be working pretty hard on this for the next couple of probably months. I mean, like it's probably gonna be coming out sometime towards the summer. The album, we're gonna be releasing singles. Like this one is, like I said, it's probably gonna be one of the first. So you heard it first here, and you're most likely not gonna hear it again for a while. The only way to be part of this right now is to actually see the live streams, and they will be listed on YouTube after the release dates. So that way, it's not, I'm sure you guys understand why we're doing that. And so, yeah, so like that, this is basically it. I hope that you took notes down and that you've learned at least one or two tricks. I mean, the thing with the parallel compression, if we're just reviewing now, Having two drum tracks, one parallel compressed, like obut, where it's just like crushed, and then the other part is just like clean, like and tamed, how we actually routed the drums and we have control now over each individual drum. How we actually did the thing with the bass. Now we have like the DI bass and the amp bass, and also the trick with the parallel, I keep calling it parallel compression, with multi-band compression, also known as dynamic EQ. So how we got the sub bass to be super tight and clean. And the trick that we worked with the compressor, that we're gain staging with that, so everything's the same level, that we're actually like barely, or if not even using the faders, because we're reserving those for automation if we end up using automation. And of course, the first thing we did was the sub mixes. So if you're not working with sub mixes, like you're shooting yourself in the foot. Like sub mixes are super important, and we need one for each instrument group. You make as many as you want or as little as you want, but everything needs to go to a sub mix. Because we're going to be looking at that in the next episode, like what we're going to be doing on the sub mix, because we're not done, like there's still like quite a bit of work to do. So next episode is going to be focusing on lead guitar, vocals, but before that, we're probably going to just finish up this piano. This is done. Piano clip is done, and strings we're going to replace with the strings from East West. We're going to look at this part actually, because I'm not quite sure if we're going to keep it or not. We're going to look into that. And that's it. So we're really going to focus on lead guitar and vocals next episode. And obviously like sub mixes, what we're doing there. And then, this, what I call the second stage of mixing, or the sub mixing stage rather. So that's what's going to be another one of the highlights. And we're also going to obviously, hopefully have time to master this thing. So I'm going to show you, like, the mastering is actually the quickest part. And last little thing is also what I was talking about in regards to the clips, fading them in, making everything like super professional and clean. If there's a part, with silence, that we like chop that up, so we're going to get into that next episode, and I'm pretty confident that we're going to finish it next episode. So a 4-hour mixing and mastering session, and we're like 90% of the way there, I think is a really good objective. And obviously we're going to get into like fine tweaking the EQ and stuff. Like that's going to be pretty big as well. But that's pretty much it. So make sure to subscribe to the channel if you like this type of content. I apologize that I'm a little bit rusty today. Like I said, this is the first live stream I've done in a while. It's the first video I've done in a while, but there's going to be more coming in the next couple of weeks. I'm getting back into it. Still very busy, but I'm gonna make the time for this. Decibel Peak is very important to me, and I hope that it becomes a valuable resource for you down the road, and maybe even today. So thanks for watching, guys. I'm gonna sign out now, and we'll see you in the next one.